It's time to put a lid on this Kickstarter rampage that we have built up. So far over the last couple of videos, we've showcased 9 different examples of Kickstarters running away with your money. 30,457 disappointed people back in a combined total of $1,512,863, and other than getting the odd beta or a t-shirt in every single instance, the promised game has still never been released. And even with all those angry out-of-pocket backers, there was still one particular Kickstarter campaign that people love to talk about when bringing up Kickstarter travesties. So, for the very last time in this short Kickstarter series, let's top that number up from this to this. Yep, as well as adding themselves to random chunks of DLC including Sanctum, Gang Beasts and Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed. Why, Sega, why? The Yogscast scandal is easily one of the most talked about Kickstarter catastrophes out there. Oh well, I suppose it's not as bad as, let's just not go there. Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Ibbotson and this is the Yogscast scandal, the full story. How could this not be number 1? The game that has been nominated the most since the last video in the comments section. So, let's take an in-depth, fair, but in-depth, no-holding-back look at Yogventures. Yogscast, I'm not here to judge. Well, actually, that's exactly what I'm here to do. But in regards to their YouTube channel, well, it's not really my cup of tea. Nothing against the guys, heck, I wouldn't mind 7 million subscribers, but hey, it's just not for me. And you know what, that's fine. Because it's obvious looking at them that Lewis, Simon and the rest of the Yogscast family are very much admired by their fans, and fair play to them. Which is probably why on April the 6th, 2012 that the guys announced that they were making their own video game on Kickstarter, that they absolutely smashed it. Asking for a wafty $250,000 and raising $567,665 from 13,647 backers. If you like Minecrafting games, then you're probably going to like this one too. Yogventures is going to be an open world sandbox game designed first and foremost as a multiplayer experience. The game will allow you to create and shape worlds, then easily share them and play them with friends. We're going to take the idea of build your own adventure to the extreme. Yogventures will provide simple to use tools to design worlds that match your imagination and are packed with thrilling stories and epic treasures. Sounds perfect, right? A game mimicking the most talked about and popular game of the time, featuring characters made by a couple of the game's biggest players, tons of support, and even getting showcased at E3 2012. So, what went wrong? Well, just like most projects of this size, updates continued after the closing date on May 6, 2012, fairly regularly from the Yogs guys themselves, but mainly from the developers, Wintercule Games. Everything was perfect. At the time, I would say it's actually one of the best that I've seen. That was until the game, just like every other game, including the popular released ones, started to get delayed. This happened a few times, and in Wintercule's defence, looking in the comments section, they actually did reply to angry backers fairly often, and even admitted to their mistakes, saying that they didn't want to give a solid estimated release date for the next closed beta due to not hitting those dates in the past. Part of being a new startup is discovering your own limitations, and this is definitely an area that we need to improve on as a company going forward. As you would expect, the small team of 6 bit off way more than they can chew with this game. On April 28th, 2013, the overdue update was posted. Beta begins. Now all those backers that pledged to be able to play the beta finally could.
Hello and welcome. My name is Chris and you're watching Yogventures Developers video log number 15. In this episode, I'm glad to announce that we are finally ready to start open beta.
Here is the final update video, where Chris, the main developer, explained that the game is still far from completion, and updates will continue for the rest of the year and most likely move on to next year too. But that was it for a long time. How long? Almost another year. Sure, the guys posted more often at the Yogscast forum, but the Kickstarter got practically nothing. Backers started to get more and more wound up, and rumours started circulating on sites like Reddit that the game was cancelled. And then on July 17th, an email to backers direct from Lewis at Yogscast went out explaining that the game was indeed cancelled. They ran out of money. But don't worry, another Kickstarter that's sort of similar, called Tug, is actually quite far along in development, and everyone will be getting a Steam key for that game instead. The project was proving too ambitious and difficult for them to complete with their 6-man team. Whilst this was Winterkule's project, we put a lot of time and energy and effort into trying to help them realise their dream. Since we heard the news, we've been working hard behind the scenes to make sure that you still get awesome stuff and cool experiences. Although we're under no obligation to do anything, instead we're going to do our best to make this right and make you really glad you backed the project. In many ways, Tug is the game we were hoping Winterkule would create. It has huge potential for the future. We've been playing the early access version on Steam, and you'll soon be able to see us playing the game on Yogscast channels. Okay, so let's have a look at Tug, the unnamed game. It's a randomly generated world where you randomly spawn in a slightly more realistic but still fairly cartoony Minecraft style world. Looking on Steam, the game has mostly negative to mixed reviews that quite recently has been temporarily taken off Steam to become a free to play game. This is the game that the backers got for their support on the Yogventures project. So, as you can expect, almost all those backers were not happy with this update, especially the 980 that pledged over $90 to get a t-shirt, the 93 who spent $200 to get a high quality signed print, the 120 who spent $300 to get the deluxe edition, the 37 who backed $500 to get a hand painted statue, the 36 that paid $750 to get a personalised block or creature added to the game, the backer who paid $2,000 for a personalised thank you video, the 5 who paid $5,000 to have their Minecraft character in this game, and finally the 5 poorest sods who paid $10,000 to go for lunch with the Yogscast crew. But hey, at least they got a game that also is a Kickstarter and still not released, with a comment section full of pissed off backers. Yep, Tug very much could have made this very list on its own. It fully fits the bill, an unreleased, ever-changing, overdue mess. And there you have it, the ultimate Kickstarter fuck-up. But why is this Kickstarter, above all, known to many as the very worst video game scam of all time? Especially when you look at the fact that the Yogscast team did in fact give out a free Steam key to a similar, but obviously fairly incomplete game, as well as betas for that original game that the backers originally pledged for. Other Kickstarters haven't given anything. So let's delve a little deeper. It wasn't long after this huge mess started that Chris Vale, the lead guy at Winterkule, was instructed that $150,000 would be transferred directly to Yogscast, who would be dealing with the rewards, and that they were going to be using the money to hire the main programmer for the team. A programmer that Chris claims his team never received. Lewis Brinley, Yogscast co-founder, denied these allegations, but didn't really go into exactly what part he was denying, and simply said there's no value going into detail. No value? Well, with Kickstarter, I definitely think there is value involved. Now, before we start waving your pitchforks at the Yogs crew, it's worth noting that this $150,000 unaccounted money that the Yogs guys received has only been brought up due to the Kickstarter rules of creators having to explain where the money went on failed projects. The only problem with this is after a few days of posting this information, a bunch of clever so-and-sos worked out that the amount that Chris and his team had put forward didn't actually add up, even including the missing 150 Yogscast payout. It didn't make sense. But in Chris's defence, it is also worth noting that $35,000 apparently went to an unnamed artist for the game. 2 weeks into the project, he went off to work with LucasArts, and LucasArts were unwilling, or at least the artist was unwilling, to continue Yogventures in his spare time. And yes, you guessed it, apparently that $35,000 went with him. So with all this going on, the internet doing what the internet does best started rumours about Chris, which he put to rest in a final forum update. Although, what he actually did clarify turned out to be even worse. He stated that after putting in $25,000 of his own money to help the project, it still wasn't enough to save the game or his company, who eventually went bankrupt. It also destroyed Chris's marriage due to the fact that Chris was actually working a full-time job on top of this full-time job, and eventually he got divorced. This resulted in Chris going into depression and even having to take medical leave of absence from his main job, which he almost lost too. With all this said, he does raise his head up high and explain that the fault lies on him. He said yes to every feature the Yogs guys requested, because he was scared to lose the opportunity. Yet again, another example of a project being way too big for such a small team. Isn't this depressing? Well, thankfully Chris got himself a new BMW almost the exact same time that this post was written to make himself feel better. So, that's nice. Anyway, some of the money was refunded and some of the physical awards were given out. Hardcore fans of the YouTube show still claim that Yogscast handled the situation quite nicely, but to everyone else, it was yet again another example of developers taking on way more than they can handle. Now, I'm sure that the YouTube celebrities do in fact regret trusting strangers' judgments of what this huge multiplayer experience could have been and ultimately couldn't fulfill, but of course, it's the fans that are most upset with no real clarification into that huge chunk of money that's never really been explained, and obviously having nothing to show for their support other than 2 unfinished crap games. And a few t-shirts. Although looking at the ever-growing comments section of the new Deserted by the developers Kickstarter, it seems a lot of those guys didn't even get that. Hey there guys, whether you're watching this on Larry Bundy Jr.'s channel or My Slopes Game Room channel, thanks very much for watching. Click the links on the screen or in the description to check out either of our channels and Patreon pages. But for now, that's it from me. This is DJ Slopes signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.